Hello and welcome, beautiful soul, to another episode of Permission to Follow Your Inner GPS, your inner guided purpose soul path. I am Angel Lady Terry Marie, and we have another amazing change maker with us today, Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. She is a relationship consultant, mediation speaker, and author. The Relationship Help Doctor provides urgent and ongoing care for relationships in crisis. Her mission is to help people stop tolerating abuse. Even the United States Marines have sought her help. Please, warm welcome for this beautiful lady. Thank you, beautiful, for being here today.
Thank you for the invitation.
You're welcome. It's been a little bit of a techie issue behind the scenes, y'all, so if there's any blips or whatnot, bear with us. Please tell us a little bit more about you and what it is you do, beautiful.
Sure. What I do is I help people when they find that their relationships are really not working and haven't been working for quite a while. I have a PhD in psychology, so I have a great interest in helping people, but I specialize in helping the partners, the exes, the adult children, and coworkers of the relentlessly difficult people that I call hijackals. These are the people who are crazy making, cause you to question your sanity and second guess yourself. So I have 2 podcasts, I've written 16 books, and I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you. That's quite a resume. 16 books, my goodness. And 2 podcasts. Wow. So how did you get started in this particular area? You mentioned a PhD in psychology, which is a great foundation for it. But how did you get into this part of working with hijackals? I like that.
Yeah, I don't work with hijackals. I work with their partners, their exes, hijackals, of course, there's nothing wrong with them, so they don't need any work in their estimation. But when you've met one, you've lived with one, you've been raised by one, maybe you've left one, you begin to really question yourself and who am I and how did this happen? So you need to be able to recognize the patterns, traits, and cycles of these people, then realize how you were participating in that relationship, then begin to remedy it, then begin to reclaim and restore yourself. And maybe you're not completely restoring yourself. Maybe you didn't have the self-esteem and self-confidence, and that's what caused those people to be attractive to you. So I help you figure all that out and get on a great path where you can have the rest of your life in peace.
I think I have been involved with a few hijackals and didn't. I love that term. I absolutely love that term. That it's interesting because so many people, they don't realize that their vibration attracts, and they have to not only get out, but then to do the inner work.
Right. Yes, because when you're little, your brain is not developed fully. It doesn't develop fully till we're 25. So things get imprinted in there that have a later impact. So you may attract these people, but you may be completely unwitting prey for them because you don't know what's been put into you during your first years of life. And so you're responding and reacting to life in a way that first you were told how, you were told by people's behavior around you, whether or not you were welcomed by joy in the world, or you were kind of an necessary add-on, or you were someone who wasn't really wanted. And all these things play into it. And then how people responded to you, what they told you was appropriate, and what you needed to learn in order to survive in whatever home you were born into. So all those things have an impact. None of it is your fault, but you will be working on that operating system until you realize, whoops, not liking the result much, need to maybe have a look at the operating system, make a few tweaks.
I definitely fall into that last category of unwanted, very much so. So I've learned a lot along the way. I'm sure there are a few more things to unlearn and to reprogram. And yet, how does a person who's involved with a hijackal figure out that it's not them, and this isn't about changing blame or shifting it, it's just and taking responsibility for our own parts. But how does a person then identify they're with a hijackal type person to then take the next steps to get out and then to reprogram themselves? Beautiful.
Well, one of the most important things is what you just brought up, because you have to take a step back and just imagine if it's not your fault. Imagine if you're not causing this, you're in it. Because a hijackal is going to tell you everything is your fault.
Yes.
They will tell you the weather is your fault. I mean, they will find a way to make everything your fault. So when you wake up and realize, I get blamed for everything, and yet how can that possibly be? That's the first step to maybe saying, maybe it's not all me. And so we begin to notice hijackals have some patterns. They have to win. They have to be right in every circumstance. They have to win. They have to have power over you.
Right.
You know, one of the things that happens is they love to ruin celebrations, gatherings, and holidays because they don't like it that somebody else may be having center stage, or you may be concerned about someone else.
Mm-hmm.
So they immediately try to destroy everything to at least bring you down, if not bring the attention back to them. Now, I can think of my wedding. My godparents were very instrumental in raising me. My godfather was a hijackal, covert hijackal. My godmother made my dress. She did everything. Like I was her child she never had. And so on the morning of the wedding day, he said, I'm too sick to go. I need you to stay home with me.
Oh.
And she did. Now that's typical of a covert hijackal. Celebrate, celebrate, celebrate. Oh, it's wonderful. I'm all participating in this. We're going to have a great time. Oh, it's not about me. Let me see if I can get you to stay home and take care of me instead. Yay, I win.
Wow. Yes. I'm seeing some flashbacks from my childhood. It's like, oh my goodness. That is incredible. So how does someone begin to, without giving away all of your secrets, because that's not the thing, I'm going to redirect that. What has been a challenge or an obstacle for you to, if there has been, for you to get into this field to really help the hijackals? I mean, the partners of hijackals.
Yeah. Well, I was raised by two of them. Then they chose a godparent that was one of them. Then I became what I call hijackal bait, because you don't have any choice when you're raised by them. So you attract one. I attracted it. I got rid of it. I had to co-parent with it. And so I have lived it. I have been there, done that. I have the nasty video and the ragged t-shirt. I have been through it all. So, I know.
That's not funny, really.
No, but I know, and I know at deep levels what that does inside you, what your self-talk is, how you were raised that way, and what you have to do to, first of all, recognize it and then start to remedy it.
What are some of the ways that someone can recognize it? Because what you do, oh my goodness. I wish I had met you a long time ago.
You wouldn't believe how many times I hear that.
I'm sure. I was raised by a hijackal and just very recently cut the tie finally, and we're talking with a parent, and they're still living, so I don't want to go too much into it. But how does someone who may be in covert, mine was not quite so covert, although I think sometimes she was, how does someone recognize some of the signs and to be able to reach out to someone like you?
Sure. Well, I'm easy to find because I'm at forrelationshiphelp.com, but you have to know to go looking for me. So that's why I do my podcast, Save Your Sanity. People can get that anywhere they get podcasts. But here's what happens. Like I said earlier, first of all, they have to win. So if they have to win, then everything will be your fault. So of course, you're going to live in the fear of being blamed for things that you may not have done or even thought or said. It doesn't matter because it's all in the mind of the hijacker. Another thing is that they're going to have explosive and inappropriate, out of proportion
Ooh.
reactions to things. So you think that you benignly said, I don't want to go there on Saturday, and they go off like a Roman candle.
Yes.
You know, all you were doing was saying this teeny tiny little thing, but all of a sudden, whoa, you know, it's gone. So they react in that way. Another thing that they do is that they're very, very low on empathy. Now, some hijackals, you know, we're talking about hijackals. The reason I created the term is because too many people were going to the Google goddess and saying, my partner or my mother or whomever behaves this way. And the Google goddess is not a psychological professional, it's an index. So it comes back and it tells you they're a narcissist, a borderline, a sociopath, a psychopath, a histrionic, and antisocial. And you go, oh, therefore it's all their fault. No, honey, you're in it. So there's stuff going on between you and that person. There's roles that are happening there. But when you begin to realize that, the person doesn't have empathy. They can mimic empathy. They can seem to do the appropriate thing, but they don't act empathy. So they don't take care of you. They don't stay with the feeling of being in alignment with you. They probably will tuck it in their back pocket and use that vulnerability at some time to put you down, because they don't have a real sense of empathy. They just can't walk in your shoes, and they tend to be very negative. So they're judgmental. They look out at the world. You know, my mom was an overt hijackal, and I remember one day she came home, and she did this all the time, but one day she came home. I was about 15, and she said, "Well, I really took the wind out of her sails." And I don't know where it came from, but Terry Marie, I said, why didn't you just take your sail out of her wind?
Wow.
Oh, my mother hated that. She hated that so much, because the last thing she wanted to do was to be speechless. And at that moment, she was speechless and had no control over me. So those are kinds of examples of things that happen. They'll be fault finding all the time, blaming you all the time. Oh, they also do another neat thing.
What?
One day you're the best thing since sliced bread. 20 minutes later, you're the scum of the earth. There's no in between, right?
No, there's no in between. My mother, bless her heart, even opened up my college acceptance letter before I got home. She couldn't wait. And it's like, I didn't even want to go. I did go, but I didn't want to go. It took everything out of it. You know,
Yes, that's what they do, because they have to be the one with the information. They have to be the one that's right. You know, when I was married to a hijackal, I was astounded. This man slept with a radio on, listening to NPR. And do you know why? So that he was the first one to know anything. And I didn't really realize that he'd call in the day, and well, he was keeping tabs on me, but I thought it was because he cared. And I would say, oh, did you hear such and such? Yes, I did. And he'd be all angry because I heard it. And I knew, instead of me being the compliant little woman who would say, well, what's new, honey? And then he could tell me what the news was. Right. So it runs very deeply, this need to be right, this need to be first, the need to be in the know, the need to be the one who knows, the need to be the one with the definitive answer to everything. And you have to believe them. Otherwise, again, there'll be something wrong with you.
Incredible. Just incredible. I can see so many patterns that I used to have because of that.
Sure.
How did you start getting yourself out of it? You obviously have all of this experience. Unfortunately, fortunately for so many people in the world, you do have all of this experience, so you can help them untangle themselves. But how did you start untangling yourself?
Well, fortunately, when I was little, about 7 or 8, I looked at them and I remember distinctly thinking to myself, they're nuts. They are nuts. And, that's a pretty big realization for an 8-year-old.
Yes.
And then I realized I can't rely on them for anything because they don't tell the truth. So I had some inklings, people often say that's kind of old soul material, but I kind of knew, all right, I got to deal with these people. I need them to keep a roof over my head and everything, but the best thing is to not tell them anything. So I learned to feed them what they wanted to hear. And because they didn't care about me very much, I was an object. Remember, if
Right.
you're a hijackal's child, you are an object to make them look better. And they
Yes.
don't like it very much when you start to grow, because when you're a little baby, everybody says, oh, what a beautiful baby. And they go, oh, it's mine. But then when the little one begins to have brain development and realizes that they're separate from their parents and learns to say, no, oh, big split, big psychological things begin to happen. Because how dare you? How dare you? You're supposed to love me unconditionally, do everything that I said. After all, that's why I had you. And so things start to go sideways pretty much from there on. So I was fortunate. I recognized that their arguments were ridiculous. What my mother had to say didn't make sense. My father was always sick, which was his covert way of hiding out and then playing the victim. And I thought, okay, I just got to hang on here until I graduate from high school. So it started that way.
To have the insight, the cognizant insight, and at that early age is, I don't have an English word for it, but holy smokes.
Well, it was fortunate. I took myself to church when I was 3 years old. I knew that I needed to escape. I knew that there was something better for me. And so they let me go, of course, because they were happy not to have me around. So I always had a spiritual bent, and I've done a lot in that realm, and I've led large spiritual organizations, and I've done things. So those things went hand in hand with my own growth, my own personal growth. But don't get me wrong, I didn't get to the bottom of this stuff until I was about 38. And it's not easy because you're so used to making excuses for all this, and you have to. As a little kid, you've got to make sense of it. So you're not terrible, or whatever. You've got to make sense of it. So it wasn't until then that I was able to put the whole picture together. I knew I'd been sexually abused by a neighbor, but I had all these inklings about my home. And it wasn't until then that I realized, yes, that had gone on in my own home, and repeatedly. And then I was able to uncover all that. So we have that piece. Therefore, it made other people believe that I was an object for their attention, and nobody was saying no to that. So I began to see all the pieces and the implications. And so you can't see it very early on for what it really is. You can feel the effect of it. Yes, I could say, I think they're nuts, but that wasn't my highly evolved psychological decision. That was me going, oh, I got to be with these two for a while. So it took a long time. And then I had to be able to apply everything that I knew. And here's the thing, and you'll know this from your own life. Hijackals paint a public picture of perfection, while at home they create a private place of pain. So you want to go out and you think you can really trust so-and-so's mother, so you tell them how your mother is, and she goes, oh, what a terrible thing to say about your mother.
Mm-hmm.
So you shut down, right? You shut down. There's nobody safe to tell because they don't see your home. I'm an only child, so I got it from two sides, and nobody to tell and nobody to corroborate my history. But that's what happens.
I'm almost speechless myself because it is just so incredible. You almost described my entire childhood and adulthood to a great extent. was able to escape a lot of the hijackals that I did attract. And it took me a couple of times to actually finally sever the hijackal parents.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, me too. And, I like you, and I won't put words in your mouth, but I would guess that you felt the loss of nurturing and being loved just because you
Yep.
breathed. And so I kept revisiting it, hoping that maybe they'd be different. Maybe they would have grown up. Maybe they'd feel badly. Oh, no, that's not going to happen.
Maybe I healed enough to create space that they could step into
Sure.
genuinely.
Yes.
I got for a while.
Yeah, I used to have a big center, and my mother would come to the attitudinal healing groups, and we would talk about how our thoughts play into our physical health and what we could do to be better in that regard. And here's how it plays out. This is a funny story that you would probably recognize. My mother would go and she'd say, "Oh, well, you know what my daughter does, it's wonderful, it's wonderful." So my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and she was going to speak at a hospice conference, and so she wanted me to go with her. So I went, and she got all done up, and we traveled and we went there. And she was saying, when she spoke, she said, I don't know if you remember the book Love, Medicine, and Miracles by Bernie Siegel, but she said, "I'm listening to his tapes, and he and I are going steady, and we're going to, this is going to work, and I'm going to be well." And so everybody was going, "Oh, I'm so sorry." They were all over her, giving her all the things that she needed and wanted. So we're on the ferry going home after this event, and she turned to me and she said, "Don't you ever talk to me about that shit again."
Okay, I can see that.
Right. So it made a beautiful public picture of perfection, but basically it didn't touch her at all. It was something to be used for her own gratification, her own attention getting. So this is how deeply it runs. And so it's very confusing to a child. It's confusing until you get enough separation, and maybe you hear a podcast or two like yours or mine, and you go, "Oh, that could have been me." So I have a free ebook people can get. It's called How to Spot a Hijackal. And you just find that at hijackals.com. So that's hijackals.com. Or hijackals.com. But if you think that what we're talking about applies to you, then go and find out. You may have a friend, you may have somebody that from your past. And if you've raised in this situation, you're comfortably uncomfortable with it. It's kind of normal and familiar, and you don't really realize it for quite a while. So don't beat yourself up. Don't spend 1 minute beating yourself up. Just say, "Oh, I see. The boat that I was raised in has many holes in it. I'd like to go to a safer one." That's all you have to do, is start looking for the bridge to the other boat.
You have such an incredible mission or purpose, whatever someone wants to call it. Your soul path to try and put it in human words, change maker, is just barely covers the surface. Because as I just now got that my only sibling is also a hijackal. So I got it from different levels and different sides. And how interesting, because that helps me feel better about cutting ties. Because family is supposed to be everything, right? Well, not every family works for everyone. So please tell us the URL again, because this is too important. Tell us again.
There are two. You can get this book at hijackals.com. Jackals, JACKALS.com. Or you can learn all about my work and listen to my podcast, everything on my website, which is forrelationshiphelp.com. FOR relationship, HELP.com. There's lots of things there for you. You can take my free relationship checklist. You can take my free passive aggressive checklist. If you're working on yourself, you can take my free personal integrity checklist. All those things are there for you. You can get my newsletter. You can do many, many things, and many people start there. You know, I had a woman, I work by video conferencing just the way we're doing this interview. And so I have clients all over the world. And she said to me before she came, she said, before I talk to you, I listened to at least 25 of your videos. I read 3 of your books. I'm on your podcast all the time. And I felt like now I know exactly what I need help with. I thought, yay, that's exactly why I do it. So hijackals.com, forrelationshiphelp.com, and you can learn everything there. And oh, by the way, the YouTube channel is called For Relationship Help. So not too much to remember.
Not too many different things to remember. And this is the beautiful Dr. Rhoberta Shaler. Amazing. Thank you very much for being here. Perhaps you'd come back another time and we can maybe expand on this work as our reach is expanding to help connect you with more people than you already are, if that's possible. I'm sure it is. So please come back another time if you would.
I would love to come back. There's lots of things to discuss, and let's help more people.
Let's help more people. Absolutely. Thank you, beautiful soul, for joining us, and do stop by angeldreamteam.com and become a mover and shaker of your reality and raise your vibe in a different way. We will talk with you again soon, and thank you for joining us. And please tell people about this. Dr. Rhoberta Shaler has an amazing message, and so share this. Thank you so much. Bye-bye for now, beautiful soul.